What's up, everybody? Welcome to the For Students podcast. It's me, Ed Williams, one of your hosts, and I'm really excited about today's episode. Lots going on, but this young lady that we interview today is, she's incredible. I met her, you're going to hear a little bit more of the details, but I met her a little over a year ago through our programming at a local high school. She just came up, started talking to us. She's just sharp. I think she was her junior class president. I think she was also then her senior class president. But you're going to hear some unbelievably amazing things, not only that she cares about and things that she's accomplished, but actually some wild stuff that helped make her who she is. You're going to hear us refer to my education around BRAT summer. You're going to hear us talk about, I'm going to learn what the term demure means and how that's being used in this little micro trend right now here at the end of the summer of 2024. It's a great episode. I think we will learn a lot about not only just Caroline, but there's a couple of big things, big pieces that she shares during this interview. One of which is just at the heart of this whole organization around For Students and this idea of community and having people around you that you can go to when you need them. So everybody buckle up. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait for you to listen.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And it's funny because no one really knows who I am very much, probably. And the tens of people that are watching this. But they don't know who you are either.
Yeah.
So
we're both new faces.
We're both new faces. So how did we end up here? Like, how do you even know me?
Okay. So my name's Caroline, by the way. I went to one of the launch events at UA, the first one before the end of my junior year. So it was when we did juniors and seniors together. And I immediately was like, oh, this is great. Because it's like, we're jumping right in. It's very hype. All my best friends were seniors at the time. So I had been hearing about it all year. I'd been so excited. And the first event, really just met all my expectations. It was the core values event. So we were learning about our values, and especially rolling into your senior year. Those are very important things to know. And I was just immediately in love with the whole idea, the mission statement, everything behind it. And then my senior year, we jumped in and I introduced myself to you. Because if there's one thing I am, it's I'm very chalant. People like to say, oh, I'm a nonchalant person. I'm chalant.
Okay.
So if there's
the
any,
opposite of nonchalant.
So I'm going to be introducing myself. I'm going to be talking. So I think that actually helps. That's how I met you and Henry and, everyone. So that's how.
Thanks for hyping the organization.
Of course.
Hey, tell us more great things.
I'm the biggest fan. No, my friends I did get made fun of a little bit by my friends just because they were just because I talk to adults a lot.
Sure.
And I like adults. So I'm always going to go up and talk to them. And they're like, Caroline, you do know you're 17. Now I'm 18, but they're like, you're 17, you're 16 years old, and you're best friends with all these adults. And I'm like, well, it's just fun that way because they have more gossip than you would think.
Yes.
They do. They know all the information.
And what's cool is, from that event, then we spent all of your senior year together.
Yes.
With the help of one of the teachers, on your campus, we created this advisory team of students. Yes. And so I would meet with you all once a month. So we got to hang out even more. And then by the end of that, we did the end of year event. Then you came to the conference here in Charlotte. And then next thing I know, Whitney's telling me that you're interning for us this summer.
Yeah, I guess another one of my talents is talking myself into things.
Yeah.
I kind of, mentioned to Whitney when I saw her, I was like, this is kind of what I want to do, when I'm older. I think that being in the For Students space for so long, I was kind of this is kind of what I want to do. And when I was applying for colleges and I was going over what mattered to me and what I wanted to pursue, everything just kept coming back to how much I love doing this. And so I mentioned that to her and she was like, oh, that's amazing. And then she kind of stepped away and I guess she kind of thought, and then she came back and she was like, what are you doing this summer? And the good thing is I was doing absolutely nothing. I was like, I'm free. You tell me a time and a place and I will show up and do whatever you need me to do. And she was like, I have another intern, Evan, right now, but I'm sure he would love to, meet with you and collaborate because he's kind of quieter and more demure. And I
Nice.
I'm louder. So, and we worked really well together and I just it was like we ended the conference on Friday.
Yeah.
And then Monday, I was at a staff meeting.
It was wild.
And it was really fun. And you were like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm interning now. So yeah.
I was like, of course you are. And I was pumped.
Yeah.
We had a great rapport, I felt like,
Yes.
all year. It was so fun. You're so outgoing, and it is unusual to have somebody your age that enjoys talking to adults. So it was just always really, really easy to chat with you. You're wise beyond your years. And while I have 2 daughters, both of which are around your age, it was just, it's just fun.
Yeah. And I also talked myself into, me and my friends went to Texas Roadhouse the other day as
Okay.
like a final goodbye. And a big thing is this week is like my last week here.
Yeah, this
So
is
I'm
crazy.
saying
We're
goodbye.
recording this at the end of summer.
That's true.
So this is a big deal. You're
Yeah.
about to make a huge step. We'll get into that.
Yes. So I was saying goodbye and I'm like making time to say goodbye to everyone, which is like very sad. But we decided Texas Roadhouse was going to be the place
Yeah,
to say
interesting.
goodbye. And it was going to be like a 30-minute wait. And I told my friends I was there first. I'm like, I'm just going to go in and talk to them. And I guess, and then we just got seated, like after like saying, oh, like it's just the 3 of us, like we can sit wherever. And then they just sat us down and it was nice. And they were like, what?
Yeah, how did
Yeah,
you do
I also
this?
talked my way out of parking, like paying for parking and all things like if a police officer, well, I've never talked my way out of anything illegal, but I did, a police officer was running like the parking, like after a concert. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm babysitting. I need to get these kids home. Like they're tired, they're crying. And he was like, oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's
And I
incredible.
just-
So all of these little success stories, as you've talked your ways out of things, has just emboldened you to like, right, to talk about,
I
try and talk
guess,
your way out of
I
all these other
guess.
things. 30-minute wait. Let me go in. Let me see
Maybe
what I
it's
can
bad,
do.
but it's never like I'm trying to. It's
Sure.
just somehow it happens. And I just like become friends with whoever I'm talking to. I'm like, oh my God, I love your sweater. Where'd you get it? It's like from Mean Girls, it's like, I love your bracelet. Where'd you get it? But it does come. It just like is just what I
Just
say, and then
happens.
somehow it happens because I
That's
do
awesome.
love people.
It's a gift, yeah.
People are very nice.
And I think that's
and
partly,
kind.
that has to be at least what both Whitney and I see in you and why
Yeah.
we wanted to be around you is your love for
Yeah.
people.
The issue is that the optimism and the good view of the world
Sure.
leads to some, because I'm very easy to trust someone, very, very easy. And
Yeah,
sometimes
same.
it can lead to some like hurt feelings.
It can be
but-
problematic. There's another side to every coin.
Exactly. But yeah.
So you jump on staff this summer. You're around our staff table every week.
Mhm.
And even though some of us are in and out, vacation time because it's summertime, what did you, just real quick, like what did you see? What was your impression of this group of adults that had been coming into your school for a year?
Yeah, so I knew you,
Mhm.
and I kind of knew Whitney. I didn't know her as well as I
Right.
knew you and like maybe Henry. And I was walking in and I could recognize people's faces. I just didn't know like what exactly their job was.
Sure.
So there's like Kelly and there's Laura and Clee and all these really just incredible individuals. And before I came to the staff meeting, they had me take the widget,
Oh,
the
yeah,
Working
yeah.
Genius
Working
test.
Genius test. Yeah.
And I was really intrigued. I'm a big personality test person.
Yeah, I love them
I
too.
know my Myers-Briggs. I know my Enneagram. I know like all the things. My temperament.
Right.
I know
right,
everything.
right.
So I was really excited, and I got, what did I get? Enablement and galvanizing.
Okay.
And Whitney had shared with me that like everyone had taken it,
Mhm.
and everyone knew each other's like strengths and weaknesses, but it just seemed to me like that's the type of thing you do, but it was never going to be touched on.
Sure.
But then like we sit in the staff meeting, and it's like, okay, we're going to ask Kelly, who maybe is best at discernment, what she thinks.
Right.
And then we're able to take this big grand idea down to something small and manageable. And that had been something I'd never gotten to see before. And it was just really cool and intriguing to see kind of the process of something that I love so much plans getting put in motion.
Right.
And just the ability to recognize like, maybe you are going to be someone that loves to dream big and have all these ideas and say all these funny things. And then Kelly is able to say, well, we might just need to
That
bring
will
that
never
down
work.
just a little bit. And then maybe Laura is like, let me just whip out the calendar and see what's
Yeah,
on.
let's get this
Clee's going to offer kind of little small remarks that end up like making everyone cackle. And,
Yeah.
there's just amazing how people that are so different can like come together and create something wonderful. And as I want to like go into the workforce and do things, like I would want to look for something like that. And wherever I end up.
I think that you will inevitably. And one of the funny things, because I want to get into what did you end up doing, just real quickly.
Yeah.
I think people listening would love to hear what you did for us. Like, what does someone right out of high school come and do interning for, a nonprofit, a mental health nonprofit?
Yes. So me and
But-
Evan.
Oh, before you get into
Oh,
it, though. So
okay.
before we get into that, it was also really fun because it was fun to me because I do love making people laugh. I don't think I'm that funny, but I enjoy trying to make people laugh. and I have 2 daughters, so I was a little bit more. I knew a few things or threw out a couple of terms here and there. Probably used them incorrectly, but enough where you're like, how do you know that? And so I think, I don't know, I was trying to think Brat Summer was one of them. That was funny.
Brat Summer came really weirdly because there was something green and I said, oh my God, that's so Brat. Because I was talking to one of the other interns, Caroline.
Yes, that's right.
We're Caroline squared together. Miss you, Caroline, so much. And
Shout out Caroline.
and I was like, oh my God, that's so Brat. And then Caroline like started laughing. And then you were like, I know what Brat is. Or you said something and I whipped around and I was like,
was this meeting so Brat?
What? I was so confused because in my mind, not even some of my friends know what Brat Summer is. And if you don't know what Brat Summer is based off the Charlie XCX album Brat. And so it's not necessarily, it's hard to explain. It's more of a mindset. Ed might not be Brat because he's a man, but I am Brat because I'm a woman. So it's like, you're like,
it's also something that no one will be talking about in like 3 weeks. Like these micro trends that we were talking about.
The entire summer has been Brat, so I do foresee Brat continuing, although it might lose its, nuance and its power, but we'll see.
Yeah, just like you dropping demure earlier, a trend
yes,
that
demure is a trend right now.
now.
It's probably not going to make any sense in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
all right, so thanks for that quick little departure. So back to, you come on staff with us, and what are you doing this summer? What have you been doing? Because here we are at the end.
So our like little intern team started out with just Evan, and then I kind of talked my way into it.
Yeah.
And then we added, it was me and Evan for a while, and then there was another girl, Caroline, that joined us, and then finally towards the end there was a girl named Frankie, which actually me and Evan had met with Frankie the first thing we ever did. But basically, me and Evan came together and we were working on a sort of franchise packet for a section of the For Students organization called Students for Students, which is like the peer-led groups in high schools dedicated to having authentic conversations.
Right.
And it basically is based on like juniors and seniors leading a group of like freshmen and sophomores. So they're able to kind of impart any knowledge or tips and tricks or just having a community of people that otherwise wouldn't have talked to one another. And so I had never been a participant in one of the Students for Students groups.
It's not at UA, is it?
It's not at UA. I had never, I knew what it was. And Evan was one of the founding members of Students for Students at Latin. So he was kind of someone who was really aware, and I was coming in with like a fresh set of eyes. And so we were put in charge of taking this Google Drive that we had been handed of all the information.
Like 3 years. I think by that point it's probably like 3.5 years worth of stuff.
It was so much
stuck
stuff.
In there.
And taking all of these, bits and pieces of information, Google Docs, whatever, and putting it together in a drive so that if someone in Atlanta or California or another state wanted to start Students for Students at their school, we could give them everything they would need. Because
it's like a club, really. While you need a sponsor, like a faculty member or something, but it's really student-led. I mean, and particularly, and you sat in, I think, at least on one of like the lead team meetings where all these schools, because now grassroots-wise, it's spread. This is kind of the one of the beautiful things about this, is that it started in Whitney's garage, just Whitney meeting with students who needed someone to process with. That wasn't a parent or, and it just grew as they invited friends, and then it became this lead team. And then the lead team ended up talking to people at other schools, and then it started up like, hey, I want to start that at my school. And here you are 3.5 years later, Evan's about to leave for his junior year of college. You're just coming out of high school, and now you're helping formulate. How I don't know what the word is, but help make it accessible for people who might want to start it at their school. So.
Yes, and so it was kind of a daunting task because you might not even know because you were with the organization from its beginnings.
Right.
But there is a completely different language that is used when referring to for students or students for students or anything like lead team or working genius or internal communication, external communication. There's all these words, and I was just given a Google Drive, which was not necessarily the most organized thing in the world, which I wasn't expecting it to be.
Sure.
And it was all these, and I didn't know what any of it meant. So I had to ask Evan. I was like, what does this word mean? What does this word mean? And so kind of that was my job, was taking things that, would not have made sense to like the blind eye or. And so me and Evan started like splitting up tasks, saying, okay, we're going to have you work on kind of the basics of the organization. How does it function? What is the lead team, which is kind of like the advisory board for at your school.
Yeah, the group of students at your school.
And what does marketing look like? What does communication with administration or your advisor? What is all the inner workings? And so, and one thing I love to do is I love to do Canva. If you know what Canva is, I'm a very big Canva girly. I've almost invested in the pro version of Canva, which is like $120 a year.
The stock. Is it publicly traded yet?
No, I haven't reached the stock space, maybe in the future.
Sure.
And so I would take all of like the templates or what the core values of Students for Students, and I would make it pretty and make it fun.
That's cool.
And we like created a style guide for Students for Students, which is like the fonts or the hex colors for the color palette and all these weird little nuanced things. And then as we got more and more people on like the internship team, we were able to really flush it out and kind of see what we need to focus on. And Caroline and Frankie especially were able to see, okay, this is missing something. This is missing something. And right now we're almost done. And it's really exciting.
That is
exciting.
I
know.
know.
And now we're like really getting into the meat of things right now. And I'm about to leave.
It's time to go.
Which is sad, but
that is kind of cool.
People can't get rid of me.
But it's kind of cool because Frankie actually was the first student at another school that reached out and said, I want to start this at my school. Yes. So she would definitely have these feelings. And now it's been running at her school for the past year around like, oh yeah, I wish we had this, or it'd be helpful. It had to have been helpful to have her voice there.
Yes,
that's
for
really
sure.
Cool. That's awesome. So here we are, and you've spent this time in high school. You've done this work for us this summer. For free, other than lunches and like little things here and there, and all of the, the laughs that we gave you.
Yeah.
No one can ever take those away.
It's really just the laughs we made along the way.
Yeah, that's the laughs we made along the way. But there is a reason why you feel comfortable stepping out and talking to adults while your peers think it's super weird. There's a reason why you care a lot about people. People don't just wake up one day and they are these things. Things happen that make them this way. And so since I've known you now for a little over a year, I've had the privilege of getting to know some of those details and things like that. But I'd love to, if you're comfortable with it, to jump into some of the things. Like I would love to know what Caroline thinks makes Caroline. Like if that makes sense. Like,
that's a great question.
Because I think we have views from outside as adults and hearing parts of your story, and you have this incredible essay that you wrote that you were very generous and vulnerable to let us read on the team that gave us some insight into your life. But so we have ideas of what made you. But I'm really curious, like this journey of, middle school, high school, what are the things that you feel like make you? And it could be any facet. We can break it down into facets or just as a whole, but I'd just love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I think it's a very loaded question.
It really is. I mean, it's a big one. This is a big
because
question.
I think as someone who just went through the whole college application process, that was a lot of what you're focusing on.
Yeah,
what
that makes sense.
Makes me tick? What are my values? What happened to me that maybe would have, created this version of myself? But I think at my core, and my mom has told me this before, like I do see myself as like a nurturer. Like that's one thing I love to do. And I am a people-oriented person. I'm not someone that loves, super logical things or anything like that. I'm not big into like engineering or math or anything. I'm really I love people, and I love reading about people and writing about people. And so that's kind of what makes me is that. And I think that and the nurturing aspect really was started when I was younger. I was thinking in my mind, like how I could segue into this. I think you just kind of have to cold call it. But when I was 7, me and my brother found my mom like virtually unconscious. And she is still alive today. And it's all, by how strong and athletic she was before this. But she had gotten double pneumonia and the flu, which turned into sepsis, which is a blood infection. And so in order to save her life, the doctors had to pull the blood from her extremities, like both of her legs and her arms, to her heart to keep her organs functioning, and which led to her being a quadruple amputee. And so that was a really big shift in my life, obviously. And I think that is one big thing that has made me who I am today, because first of all, I do have this amazing, incredible woman that I get to look up to every single day.
Yes.
And now she's a motivational speaker and she's a counselor, which has also made me really, really appreciative of like mental health professionals. And, I've been really aware and intuitive of my mental health since I was younger because of her. But I think at its core, when this happened to my mom, there was a big shift in my family. I'm one of 5 kids.
Okay.
So I have an older brother, and then I have 3 younger sisters.
Okay.
And I kind of immediately was just like, okay, what can I do to help? And so, like, from the age of 7, I was trying to, my little sister Jeannie was like a baby. She was like 8 months maybe. So I was like
Wow.
changing diapers and doing all these things and trying to keep my siblings happy because obviously my dad had to be in the hospital. So there was a lot of shifting and moving around and all these big feelings that were happening that maybe my younger sisters and even I weren't really aware of.
Sure.
And I think my brother was the most aware of it. And so that was a lot for him as well because he was the only one that maybe could really understand the full depth of what was happening to our family.
Yeah. How much older is he than you?
He's 3 years older than me.
So he's
he
10,
was 10,
you're 7.
I was 7, and then my 2 twin sisters were 5, and then Jeannie was 8 months.
And so this doesn't just happen immediately.
Yes.
Like how long, and you say your dad was at the hospital, how long was it from the time where your mom had to be taken to the hospital until she comes home without limbs? That's crazy.
Yes. I think there's also a Caring Bridge site that I've read because my aunt kind of kept everyone updated because my mom was very big in the community too. She worked at the YMCA. She, was like one of the moms on the PTA. Like she had built this community, super involved like myself. And so it was kind of a big change for a lot of people. And so basically she was in a coma for, I want to say like 100 days. I think it was around 100.
Wow.
I cannot
just
remember.
in the hospital.
Yes.
Over 3 months.
Yes.
Your dad is trying to be there as much as he possibly can be. Mm-hmm. He works, I would think, right? Yeah. And so, oh my gosh, like I'm just thinking about all of the dominoes that end up being pushed because of this.
Yes. And because my mom had been so community driven and kind of I saw that. And so I think a lot of me and a lot of myself has come from like what I saw from her and my dad too. They're both very like community oriented people. And so we had so many people come to like rally and support around us. And that was an incredible thing, which I think, and a lot of what For Students does is trying to create that community for kids.
Yeah, sure.
And so, and is to say like, if something happened to me, if something happened to my family, like I know because of the community and like all the conversations I have in my life, that there's going to be people to push me up and push my family up. Like there was never a worry about, food. We always had people bringing over dinners and pies and all sorts of things. And it's like, okay, there's 5 kids. They're going to eat a lot.
Sure.
And sometimes people did overestimate the amount that we would eat. We had to buy a separate freezer just for that. And we lived off of that for like so long. We were all so sick of mashed potatoes and mac and cheese. Like,
I am
stand
certain.
by that.
But real quick, just to pause there, like not everybody has that community.
Yes.
Like you think about what an insane thing, what a beautiful thing for them to have invested and been so intentional in investing in people around them before that wow, when this happens, like they're not cashing in. These people are just like, we care about you because we know you, we're involved, we're in this together, and they're figuring out how to help take care of you guys. So what a thing. Like, because I've heard people say, don't wait until you need community. It's too late.
Exactly.
Like you need to be building community all the time. And again, thanks for shouting out For Students is what we're trying to do is help people build community. But what an incredible thing for your parents and for you guys to see this and then to experience the generosity of these people rallying around you. So you're sick of mashed potatoes, mac and cheese. Sorry. Back to you.
No, it's for sure. And I think that on top of kind of when I was placed in that position of like, my dad was at the hospital. My mom, we didn't know what was happening. And my sisters were still there. And my brother was still there. And so kind of as like the oldest daughter, I kind of stepped into this role as like trying to become some facet of like my mom. Like trying to, replicate what we used to have. And now she's gone, at least for right now. And we didn't know what was going to happen.
Sure. Yeah.
And
You're not even sure she's going to live at this point.
Yes. And even before all of that happened, I was already doing that. So, and I don't want to say it's because of that I stepped into this role. But when I had all these siblings, I was already kind of doing this. And I wanted to be a mom so bad from like, from the age of 2.
That's funny.
When my sisters were born, one of my sisters came home from the NICU like 2 weeks before my other sister did.
Okay.
And so, because one of them, they were preemies. Okay. One of them came home a lot quicker. And
so they're twins?
Yes, they're twins.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's Lauren and then there's Mary.
Okay.
And Lauren came home a lot faster. She was born first.
Okay.
And so she was just baby. That's how I refer to her. That's baby.
Okay.
And then Mary came home like 2 or 3 weeks later, and that was more baby. So we have 2. We have baby and more baby.
Baby, Moss
And
baby.
Mary had like heart issues. So
Okay.
like her body would like forget to tell her heart to keep beating. So like this is actually such a funny story. My grandma was babysitting us, okay? And whenever Maisie was sleeping, there was like a heart monitor to make sure she was still sleeping, and it would go off, and you would have to wake her up if it went off because that meant her heart would stop beating. And my grandma, I guess, did not understand what that was, or she forgot, so it was beating. And apparently I told my grandma like at 2, I was like, it's okay, I got it. And I like woke Maisie up, and it was like, everything's fine. If I was my grandma, I would not have shared that story.
No joke.
Because like that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Because you're like watching your daughter's children. But so I think I've always been that way. I don't know how it happened.
Yeah, so this was something that already was in you before anything
Yeah.
happens to your mom. This thing happens to your mom, and these latent, or maybe even not latent, but these things
Yes.
just go into overdrive.
Yes. And I don't know. I think it is hard because I think there is another aspect of like, have I ever gotten out of that fight or flight response? And I don't know. That's something I'm working on.
Sure.
And so there's so many things that make me who I am. It's like that community that I saw. I want to create that community. I want to be a part of fostering that community in my school, in, the greater Charlotte community, and seeing that. Also, being a nurturer, and I'm like the therapist friend. That's another term.
Everybody comes to you to talk.
Like, and I love knowing that people feel that they can come to me. Like,
Yeah.
I never want someone to feel like they can't, like that they're alone. So, and I always try to reach out and do that. And also, I think that I love to read and I love to write. Like, there's such an amazing thing about literature and books that makes you want to understand more about people.
Sure.
And so I think that's also a big thing, is that I'm always trying to find another aspect of like humanity in books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're this nurturer. Then you just obviously just love, you devour the human experience
Yes.
in all these different forms,
Yes.
trying to understand all of this stuff and go on journeys with others. So I think that kind of makes a lot of sense as to how you ended up on our team, with all of these things already embedded in, not just things you want, but things that just you are.
Yes.
As an adult, as a parent, I'm just curious. I just want to go back just for a second, because you said that something to the effect of, as you were kind of thrown into all the things that made your household run, you discovered all these things that you were likely unaware of, and that
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of people your age are unaware of as to what makes a house run. Like, do you remember some of those big learnings?
Yes.
Like, oh wow, I never thought of this, but this has to be done, or what
Laundry.
were those things?
Laundry.
Oh, laundry.
Laundry is a horrible thing, and I hate doing it, but you have to, obviously.
Okay, sure.
Like, I'm wearing this because I washed it last night, you know?
Right.
So there's 5 kids.
Okay.
There's a lot of clothes, a lot of them. So a big thing at the time was like, who's going to do the laundry? Because my
Okay.
mom would always do the laundry.
Okay.
So it was like, how can we incentivize these kids to do their own laundry? And so now that I'm a senior and I watched my friends go to college last year and I'm going to college, it is actually really weird, the people who don't know how to do their laundry. They're like, Caroline, like, I'm so worried. Like, I don't know how to do it. What do you mean? It's quite
Well,
simple.
because if
Yeah.
this hadn't happened to your mom,
Yeah.
I don't know how old you would have been
That's
when
true.
you figured out what laundry is. I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably a lot of people out there
That and
listening,
cooking.
who are
Yeah.
who are like, why would I
Yes.
know? No, I've never had to. But to that point, you had to learn how to do that, and then you said, and cooking.
Yes,
What do
and cooking. I love cooking. I
Okay.
do it a lot for the family, because it is, it's hard to cook when you don't have hands. Put that out there.
Sure.
Yeah. And my mom will tell you that too. It's hard.
Never thought about it, but yeah, I can see how it would be
yes.
unbelievably difficult.
It's not something you really think of off the top of your head, but it
Sure.
is hard to cook when there is no hands. She
Yeah.
has prosthetics.
Okay.
And she's fine with me joking about that because she has such like an amazing sense of dark humor. She's like, oh, let me offer you a hand. And like, she'll take it off and like hand it, like the prosthetic hand to you. She's
solid
so,
gag.
you would just adore her.
Yes, I would.
But so cooking, yes, and laundry.
Okay.
Just things that you think of, you take for granted. Like some of my friends do. They're like, "Oh, dinner tonight is this." Like that's so annoying that it's like a crock pot meal. When I'm like, it actually takes a lot of work to plan the grocery list for
let
the
me
week,
tell you.
to cook, whatever. And so I think it's just really interesting to like see how different people live and how, your experiences can shape like the person you are. I doubt I would like cooking if I didn't do that, but it's fun.
But you do like it.
Yes.
So this started right away. I mean, at 7, you start
Yes.
doing laundry, or was there's this process where you just kind of one day all of your siblings were like, Caroline, we don't have any clothes.
No, I don't think it was that. I think we had a lot of people. I have a lot of aunts and uncles that
Okay.
stepped in and they like cleaned our house and they
Okay.
would decorate for Christmas and they would do our laundry. It was really such a beautiful thing. We had people from my elementary school that like came over and decorated our house and made sure we had presents because it happened over like right after Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
And so, Christmas was right around the corner and I remember like there was never a thought like because I was 7, I never thought about what if we don't have Christmas presents. But like
Hmm.
because of the community, they really stepped in and like made sure that we still had like a childhood, even though all
Yeah.
this was happening, which is incredible. And I think that slowly and surely, of course, like I did start doing the laundry, but
Mhm.
it was kind of like fun for me because I am again the type of person that I love responsibility. I love it. I love
You're a rare
stepping
one.
in and doing things and I like to help other people. So me getting to the laundry, like I felt like a big girl. Like
Hmm.
I got to do the laundry. Are you kidding me? So it was really fun for me and like folding, which is so stupid and silly, but it was. And thank goodness it was
Yeah,
fun.
no kidding. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
there's so many people out there that do not identify with that at
Yeah.
all. You know what I'm saying?
I hate it now. I
No.
will say I hate
Oh,
it
funny.
now.
You hate laundry now?
Yes, because it's just there's so as you get older, you just get so many clothes, and like some of
Yeah.
the clothes you even hate, but somehow they're in the laundry bin. And also, I still have so many siblings, so everyone's trying to like shove in and do their laundry at the same
Okay.
time,
Yeah,
and
that makes sense.
it's like we tried. Everyone has a day, didn't work. We've tried just about every single system. It's just not going to happen. You just have to fight for it physically.
Yeah, that makes sense. And cooking, but you still love cooking.
I do still love cooking.
That's
I think
cool.
I've gotten better at it. I think that's the thing. You can't really like get better at laundry, but you can get better at cooking.
Maybe.
So I think
Maybe you're
that's
right.
probably what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I have some pink socks that say maybe you can get better at laundry.
Maybe. I don't know. I
but-
actually will say I don't believe in separating. I don't believe it. I think your clothes should just be strong enough to stay the
And if
color
they're
that they
not,
are.
it's like, yeah,
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth
survival
it
of
if
the
they're not
fittest.
strong enough.
That's
Exactly.
hilarious.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as you go through this, and you're like in the end of that's like kind of the heart of elementary school. 7
Yes.
years old is what, like second grade or something like that?
Yeah, second or third grade.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And so then you're coming through elementary school into middle school, and as crazy of an event as this is, at some point things just become normal. This new just
Yeah.
becomes normal. And so you just continue on, and now, yet you've had this experience that has changed you, and certainly changed you from so many people around you, students, teachers, even. You know what I mean? There
Yeah.
are so many adults even in your world that would not have experienced that kind of what most people would label as tragedy, or because it seems like an incredibly traumatic, tragic thing at the time. It becomes normal. I mean, you're talking about it now and the success that your mom's had, what it's done, I'm certain, in your mom's outlook on life and what things she considers to be important. But as you kind of now look back, what is the big thing or things other than laundry and cooking, maybe even character-wise or just about life, that you feel you've learned, or that would be helpful for like, hey, I hope you never have to experience what I experienced, but if there's a way for you to learn whatever, fill in the blank, your peers, adults, whatever, what are these big things that you wish for other people that came out of such a dark, heavy thing?
Yeah, I think a big thing is asking for help. I
Huh.
said, I'm so self-sufficient
Right.
that never in my entire world would I be like, okay, I can't do this. And that was a beautiful thing about stepping into like the 4-student space and seeing all these people with different strengths and different weaknesses able to say, I can't do this and I'm going to ask for help. And I think entering high school was when I really realized I had to do that, because I was a freshman. I joined everything that you could possibly join.
You are that kid.
I was in theater. I joined the golf team. Never again. I joined.
Wait, what do you mean never again? Did you do it all 4 years or just freshman
I
year?
just did it freshman year,
Okay.
and it was not the time nor the space for me.
Okay.
I wasn't the best at it. I got better.
Okay.
I wasn't the best because every day after school you go and you play 9 holes.
Okay.
And it was a lot, and I was taking an AP class as a freshman, which I don't know why my school does that. I would not recommend it. But I was taking an AP class. I was, in student council. I was in class officers, in clubs, all these different things. And it was all coming down on me at the same time. It was also, we were still like half online, half in person.
Oh, yeah.
Because of
That's
COVID.
right. This was COVID.
So
thing.
we were like 2 days in person, 2 days out of person. Then Fridays you could like choose if you wanted to come in or not. And so it was really difficult for me, and I was also finding that I was struggling with my mental health. Because for so long I'd been like the strong one. Like, I'm not going to cry in front of my siblings. I'm going to be able to help them. I'm going to be able to lift them up. And then finally I'm a freshman and I'm trying to figure out my friendships and schoolwork and golf practice and all these things, and I just I could not function. Like, I just every night would just sit and panic every night, and I would be throwing up, and I would couldn't breathe and all these things. And I had been surrounded by mental health language since I was younger because my mom was a therapist. But I guess even then I was still I'm fine. I am okay, because throughout my childhood I was the one that was fine. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be able to do my own thing.
Well,
but
not
I
only that,
wasn't.
but you're going to take care of the family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I wasn't okay, especially during that freshman year. It was so bad. And I finally realized that I was I have to ask for help. So I went and I asked my mom, and we talked about it, and I was like, okay, maybe therapy is the right move for right now. And I started seeing a therapist, and me and my first therapist had an interesting relationship because she ended up quitting the profession because apparently I was too much, which is not good
Certainly
to
it
hear.
wasn't you.
Which
It
is
wasn't
not
I'm
good.
quitting this whole job because of you.
I'm I'm
No, there's no
sorry.
way. There's
Question
no
mark?
way.
Which is horrible to hear as a
Wait.
theater kid.
No, she didn't say that to you.
No, she did. I'm being so serious.
She said, I'm quitting therapy because...
She was like, it's too much for me. It's too much. And so I was like, okay. But anyways.
Maybe you're right. I think this was a good move for maybe this therapist.
So maybe for this therapist, she needed to
told
step
you
back.
that.
And then I found my now therapist, Amy, who I love. Not
Okay.
Amy that we work with.
Yeah,
Amy
we
work,
know,
but a
yeah.
different Amy. Love her to death. And she kind of sat me down and was one of the first people that told me it's okay to be a kid,
Yeah.
Which is such a weird thing to think, it's okay to be a kid. A lot of kids are kids all the time.
Well, they've never
But for
had
me,
to think about it.
Exactly.
They
For
just
me,
are.
being a kid wasn't an option, I guess.
Right.
And so having to finally confront myself and being you're not okay, you need help, that was a big thing for me.
Real quick.
Yeah.
How did you know? What were the signs to you? I mean, here you are, you're
Yeah.
raised in the home of a therapist. So maybe not even maybe, you have a leg up on potentially people recognizing, maybe I need help.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us who don't have a mom or dad who's a therapist
Yeah.
and aren't walking around in this world, what were the signs that made you say, yeah, I need help? This is not good.
So somehow, because again, I'm someone that's I'm fine. I would never allow myself to get sick. So sickness was not an option. When you're in the theater space, being sick is you are
The
condemned.
show must go on is
You
a
are
real
condemned.
thing.
So I never allowed myself to get sick. I never lied for anything. But then somehow I started getting these horrible stomach pains. And it turned out I had given myself a stress ulcer in my stomach because I
How
was
old?
just...
This is ninth grade?
Yeah.
It was 14?
Yeah.
Okay. 14 and have an ulcer?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I'm you're still what could you possibly be so stressed out about? So I would be on the floor all the time, just laying out in the kitchen, and my mom would be what is wrong with you? And I'm I cannot physically move from this current spot on the floor. And
Sure.
and she kind of realized, because she's very intuitive, she kind of realized something was wrong because every night I would be throwing up because I would just stress would just make me throw up, and I would be so upset. I'd be crying all the time. I would take naps. I would get home from what I was having and I would take a 3-hour nap. And which is fine. If you are tired, you obviously need sleep. But to be doing that every single day wasn't me, I guess. It wasn't something I would normally be doing. And so we had a conversation about it, and I was just in tears explaining to her what was happening. And she was it's okay. It's not something to be ashamed of, because so much has happened to you. And you had never faced it before, never talked about it, never cried in front of anyone. It wasn't the toxic masculinity, I'm not crying, but it was similar.
The
It's
toxic,
I'm not going to cry
lady
because
boss.
I want to be strong. Yeah. If toxic lady boss is a phrase, that's me. And so girl boss.
Girl boss is
toxic
better.
girl
Yes,
boss is
toxic
better.
girl boss is better.
And so I think, and so that was probably the hardest conversation I've had was with my mom that time. And she was so just good about it because obviously she's a therapist.
Sure.
She's trained.
Yeah,
She's trained for this.
Yeah.
And so then I was put on medication, and medication's also so hard. I had to try 5 before I found one that worked for me. And I think that's hard for people. They think medicine's maybe taboo, or if you get put on it and it doesn't work, something's wrong with you or wrong
Right.
with the medication. But everyone's body's different.
Mhm.
Everyone's mind's different. So it takes time and it takes intentional usage of it. And also you want to do it with a therapist at the same time. Like, it's not a fix, some people
Sure.
think it's a fix. It's not. And therapy's not a fix, it's like a process. There's going to be ups and downs. There's times when I think maybe I don't need a therapist or I don't need medication. But I think at the end of the day, like, being aware is also knowing that, like, maybe I might be good right now, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be good in a week,
Right, sure. I think that's just real quick. I think just to pause there, just for a second, I think it's important for people who might not recognize this, that just because you start taking this antidepressant or whatever it happens to be, there's not going to be immediate results, and this one may not work for you even then. So you may try it for that period that you're supposed to try it before it can actually even start having an effect.
Yes.
And then if it's not working, there are other options. And so I think that's an important distinction to make.
Yes. And so that kind of journey made me want to start the mental health club at my school, which I did. It's called SOS, Surviving Our Struggles.
Oh, dude. Okay.
Plug.
I'm with you. Plug.
But,
SOS. Shout out.
And so that was a big thing for me that also wanted me to, like, get involved in for students, because I was like, I'm trying to do this. I don't know how to do this. And so that was a big thing. And so, my advice is that it is okay to ask for help. And which seems like said, oh, yeah, of course I'm going to ask for help. But, like, there are people around you that are wanting to help and wanting to support you. And all you have to do is ask. And I think asking is, like, the hardest part of that. It's not receiving the help. It's not realizing you need help. It's the asking. And so, I think that's the biggest thing. And over the course of, like, my high school career, I was much better about asking for help. Not even just with mental health, with a test that I did bad on, or a friend group situation, or anything high school related. Like, there are people there, So I think that's a big thing. Asking for help. Yes.
No, that's incredible. I think one of the things I always think about is, if one of my friends came to me and asked for help, how would I feel?
Mm-hmm.
And then remind myself, that's how likely they would feel if I came to them to ask for help. I think it's just, vulnerability is just tough. We love it when we see it in other people, right? Brene Brown just talks about this again and again. Like, this idea that it's, wow, how brave of that person to admit that they can't do this, or that they need help, or they're in a tough spot. But I think when it feels like weakness when we do it, it's really interesting.
Yes. And another thing that goes along with it is that if someone's coming to you for help, my biggest thing is that I never feel like my advice is good enough. I'm like, I'm worried I'm going to say the wrong thing, or what if I tell them to do something and they do it and then everything messes up? But at the end of the day, they're coming to you knowing that you're not perfect as well, And so any advice that you give is obviously going to be, like, as long as you're giving it with, like, the best intentions and you're giving it with love, then it's not wrong,
Sure.
So I'm trying to tell myself that as people come to me for help, because it's like, that's my biggest worry, is that, like, my advice isn't going to be good enough. But they're coming to you for a reason, because they trust you, because they love and care about you, and you're giving that same energy right back. So, yeah.
Cool. A couple more things before we wrap. One of the things I was thinking is, you are a certain type of individual. And I was a teacher for a long time. I had some students that weren't exactly Caroline Seaford, but I had Carolines in my classroom. I've been around students that are really high achieving and, and really want to do and just take on responsibility. Like, I don't know, like it's a hobby, just genuinely like, what else can I do? What else can I do? What do we as friends around people like you, who are super high achieving, who want all this responsibility, who seem to have it all together all the time, adults in your life, etc., you're telling people, hey, don't be afraid to ask for help. But what are the people around people like you? What's the hardest part, or what do we need to know about people like you that's hard that we might not recognize?
I hate to like think that I am, like, high achieving, I think, because at the end of the day, like, I am always afraid that what I'm doing is not good enough.
Oh, sure.
Like,
that makes sense.
especially in high school, I'm like, am I wearing the right thing? Do I look the right way? All these people are so cool. I want to be friends with them. How do I become friends with them? There's a whole thing, because, like, I don't think that, like, I'm funny, or, like, any of the things. And, like, maybe now I'm like, okay, like, I can tell a joke.
Maybe I'm
okay,
kinda funny.
I can tell a joke.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, the best thing to understand about the people around you, just anyone, is that stop viewing the people around you as your competitors. And that was a big thing that I had to deal with, like, my senior year, because a lot of my friends, I always surround myself with people that are going to challenge me. Which can lead to issues, because maybe we don't agree, or maybe, like, we have this kind of weird, dynamic. But I always like to surround myself with people that are going to push me to be a better person. And maybe it can lead to some bad situations, but, like, at the end of the day, I'm growing because of it. So, like, I'm going to surround myself with people who are high achieving, who are the top 10 in the class, whatever. And it's hard to sit there and think that, like, am I doing enough because they're doing so much? So, like, my best friends in high school were the people who are applying to all these top schools in the nation and were, founded nonprofits and, cured an illness, or they didn't actually.
I was like, tell me more.
They did not cure an illness. But in high school, especially in girls, I think it's big in girls, like, you're always viewing the people around you as competitors when they're not. They're on this same horrible road of life. Sorry, it's not horrible. Life is beautiful and
Well,
great
it
and
is
amazing.
sometimes. Let's be
But
honest.
it's
It is
so
pretty shitty
rocky,
sometimes.
especially in high school.
Yeah.
And so stop viewing these people as, like, your race, like you're racing, to the end of the clock, to the end of high school. But really, like, you're running together, If you trip, like, I want to pick you up. If I trip, I want you to pick me up. Like, we're all in this together. And when I stopped viewing my best friends as competitors, it, like, really made my life so much more fulfilling, because I knew that, like, we are in this together. And I know, like, if I want to start something, I can ask my friends to join with me. And so it's such a hard thing to deal with, though,
Sure.
because even with some of my friends, I'm like, okay, I need to do more. Like, I need to found a club. Because college applications is seriously so horrible.
Right.
I'm like, I do need to help a small country and found a nonprofit, cure an illness, whatever. And it's so hard for high school students.
Yeah.
And so once I stopped viewing people as, like, my enemies and, like, viewed them as my friends, it made life easier, which is such a weird thing. Like, I do see myself as an optimistic person, but at the end of the day, like, I'm always thinking of myself as, like, less than. And so once you stop doing that and you say, okay, we're at the same level, then it makes life better.
So you're like, you've kind of just issued a challenge, or at least, hey, consider, to people that are like you. Maybe don't see everybody around you as competitors. But for those of us on the outside that see you as someone who would have it all together and would never think that Caroline's struggling with anything, and you've been very vulnerable, and thanks for doing that. Like, to say, hey, I'm struggling too. I'm stressed about this. I don't think I'm cool enough. Is what I'm doing good enough? I'm not doing enough. That there's all this going on as well.
Because, like, at the end of the day, the reason why people are asking to do so much is not because they, like, it's always going to come back to because they think that what they're doing right now is not good enough. It's like those people in your life that are, like, trying to take on all this stuff. It's not always because they, like, want to. It's because they feel like they have to.
I think we're going to have you back on the podcast at some point, because I think there's a lot there to kind of, like, dig into around that.
We could talk for 3.5 hours.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
But, like, last question, like, what's next for you? So, I mean, because here we are, as we're recording this, it's end of the summer. You finished, you said at one point in the podcast, you're a senior. You're not a senior anymore. You're a freshman.
Oh.
You are a freshman now. So congratulations. It's crazy.
Thank you.
But you're about to head off to school, but, like, fill us in really quickly before we go. Like, what's next for Caroline?
So, what's next? I'm going to college. Yay.
Congrats.
Education. I hope to be a student forever, I think. Like, that's a big goal of mine, is, like, to always be learning and, doing things that maybe I hate to do. Like, one thing, like, I'm scared of, I think, is, like,
laundry.
I'm
just kidding.
Also,
go ahead.
I'm scared of a lot of things, but that's a whole besides the point. Anyways, I'm going to college. I'm going to a school called Center College in Danville, Kentucky. It's very obscure. People don't know about it.
I've never heard of it.
It's very small. But I found out about it because my dad's best friend went there, and it's on a list of colleges that is also a nonprofit called Colleges That Change Lives. And they're, like, really small. It, like, fits exactly with, like, the 4 Students motto.
Okay,
it's, like,
funny.
Small institutions that are, like, dedicated to, like, educating the whole of a person. We're not just doing, it's not even really just a liberal arts college. It is, but, like, we're doing so much more than that. And so going to, like, a character education high school, like, that was always something I wanted, was a school that was kind of a lot like my high school, which some people do not want.
Yeah, for people who don't know, your high school is a character education.
Yes, my high school is character education. And I really wanted something small because, like, this is how I learn, is talking to other people.
Me too.
So if I was in a lecture hall with, like, 300 people, like, I'm just going to zone out and not learn anything. And so I applied for this scholarship there. It's called the Lincoln Scholarship. It was, like, students that want to change the world, I think, which is a very big task.
No joke.
And, like,
of course, that's the one, after hearing your story, we're all going, of course, that's the scholarship you applied for.
And I remember the first question they asked me was, like, how do you want to change the world? Asking an 18-year-old that, or 17, I was 17 at the time, is a very hard question.
Sure.
Because I was like, I don't know. I don't really know the world yet, so I don't know how I want to change it.
Great point. That's a appropriate
so I ended up going through the process for that, and oh my God, and I got it, which was the best.
That's
I was
amazing. Congratulations. I didn't know that about your story. That's really cool.
A school bus when they Zoom called me with like all the people on the board that were the directors of the scholarship, and I was like on a Zoom call. It actually fits with like who I am so much. I was on a field trip with a bunch of middle schoolers, and I was like chaperoning the field trip to go see a musical.
You are the king. You are the queen of all moms.
So I was
You're such a
on
mom.
the school bus, and I was like, just to let you know, I'm on a school bus, whatever. They told me, I'm immediately sobbing. Because I didn't believe them. I like told my teacher, whatever, and all the kids outside like knew I was on this call, so they started like jumping up, screaming, whatever. And so luckily enough, I don't have to pay for college because of this.
That's absolutely freaking incredible. Congratulations.
So, and I get to go to this small school, which is everything I ever wanted. And like, and all the other kids in the scholarship are like international students, or there's 4 or 5 other people from the US, and then there's like 4 or 5 people that are international. And, you know, we're all like texting over different time zones, and it's really exciting. It's also very hard to think about because all of these other kids did the same thing.
Yep.
They're starting nonprofits. Some of them are in like top 50 in this like, you know, competition right now, which is like, it's this girl named Valentina. She's incredible. She works on like all these different amazing like programs on like sexual education in Bolivia where she lives. And so she's amazing and wonderful. Also, the imposter syndrome starts kicking in.
I bet, yeah. That's
so
what
I think
thinking.
what's next is going to be, you know, having to deal with that.
Sure.
Also learning, being a college student, trying to be a kid, you know, trying to have fun. And my dad told me, he was like, when I got to college, I struggled with realizing that it was like a space for education. I was like, I think unfortunately I'm going to be the opposite of that.
I'm allowed to have fun.
Yes, and I also want to do pre-law. So I'm going to major in English.
Okay.
And then do a pre-law program. And hopefully go into family law if writing doesn't work out. I really want to be a writer.
You write very well. For
Thank
those people
you.
listening,
I
this
appreciate
essay
it.
she let us read is incredible.
I appreciate it. I think that's like my ultimate goal is to become a writer and live in like a small secluded home in the countryside of England. So
Okay.
And only be accessible by letter. And it has to be carried by a bird.
By a bird, exclusively.
So there's high goals here.
Yes, yes.
But hopefully do something like that. But also there's a part of me that like wants to come back right now and do what you're doing. Well,
trust me. There's a part of us that wants very much for you to come back and continue working with us. Really quickly, give us, you said there's a lot of things you're afraid of. One of them apparently is like the ability to have fun, imposter syndrome, another one.
Yes.
But give us the list so that when you come back, because I think we all need a check-in, or at least at some point, how is Caroline doing at school?
How is Caroline
what
doing?
are the other things you're afraid of as you're about to leave for this first time of living away from home?
Yes. I'm scared that because, you know, I've been doing all these things all my life. And one thing that I'm working on is how do I transition where no one really needs me? Yes, they might need me, but no one's needing me to check up on them all the time. I'm an individual. I'm living with someone I met off of Instagram. There's all these nuances, and I'm having to be be by myself for the first time.
Just Caroline, not Caroline the caregiver, not Caroline over this whole family, the laundry or the
just Caroline.
Just Caroline.
Yes. TM.
Interesting.
Just Caroline.
TM trademark.
So I'm trying. So I think that's a fear of mine is figuring out who I am. I think I'm gonna be probably a different person. Maybe not completely different, but there are definitely going to be aspects of me that maybe I won't be as afraid all the time or whatever. So I think that. Definitely academics. I hope that I can live up to my own standards, which is hard. My own standards and expectations. Making friends, which I know is a weird thing to say as someone who's so outgoing, but I'm
I'm not so worried about that. I don't think anyone listening is probably so worried about that.
Yeah, and I think just finding my niche. Also, it's in the middle of Kentucky, and the closest Target is 45 minutes away.
Okay.
So if I can function without that, I think that's a feat in itself. So I think those are my top 4 things. And hopefully when I come back, those things will be accomplished.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe just one.
Maybe we'll hear. We'll do some kind of update.
But yeah.
Caroline, you're awesome.
Thank you.
We have genuinely enjoyed having you on staff this summer. It was so fun even just over your senior year getting to know you as our, in our advisory group. You've added so much value this summer, and you're just an incredible person. And I wish tragedy wasn't the thing that was one of the catalysts. But it's beautiful on the other side of that to see what it's helped transform you into. Not that that's entirely, the reason, but it's definitely a part of it. So thanks for coming on the podcast. So cool to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.